Chapter 2248. Elder Yu gritted his teeth. Jun Mayan, Xiaoyao team dared to steal something from the Heaven Jian sect. In the next few days, I'll let you have a taste of what it means to have no way out. After leaving the demonic ape valley, Mayan didn't linger. She rushed to the rendezvous point with Leng Yuma and Luo Yu. The three of them quickly met up in a secluded forest. As soon as they saw each other, the three of them asked in unison, "Are you guys alright?" After asking, the three of them looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. At this time, they were in a sorry state. Not only Mayan, but Luo Yu and Leng Yuma had also used up most of their spiritual energy. The Spirit Strider talisman that Mayan gave them was based on the principle of lotus steps. All the speed was obtained by burning the spiritual power crazily. Fortunately, Jiang Chao and Wu Yong were scared out of their wits and didn't chase after them. Otherwise, the two of them might not have been able to meet up safely. "Junior sister, did you get what you were looking for?" Mayan raised her brows. "Of course." Luo Yu giggled. "On the way here, I heard a thunderous roar coming from the demonic ape valley. Hee, there's no need to think too much about it. The Heaven Jian sect must be furious that their item was stolen by sixth senior sister." Mayan sneered. "The treasures of the secret territory are fought over with their own abilities. Is there a rule that only the Heaven Jian sect can take something? That they can't touch anyone else's? How shameless are they?" However, she immediately turned serious. "The Heaven Jian sect is determined to get the Scarlet Flame Gold. Now that it's been stolen by us, they'll definitely chase after us. We must be more careful in the next few days." As Mu Yen spoke, she glanced at the sky, her eyes revealing a worried look. There were still 8 days until the Woodfern secret territory reopened. In these 8 days, besides being careful of the Heaven Jian sect's pursuit, there was another matter that Mayan couldn't let go of. Who was the person who sacrificed all the living beings in the secret territory? What was his motive? Was he really done with his actions? The three of them didn't say anything else and sat in meditation to recover their spiritual energy. The melodious sound of the zither rang in their ears, and the echo sound quickly filled up their exhausted dantians. What was surprising was that Luo Yu and Leng Yuma had a breakthrough after this period of high-intensity battle. Both of them jumped directly from the Golden Core level 6 to the Golden Core level 8. Seeing that the two of them were sitting cross-legged to consolidate their realms, Mu Yen entered the space to check the Scarlet Flame Gold and mysterious Ghostwood that she had just obtained. The Scarlet Flame Gold had already been dug out from the demon ape's stomach. However, the demonic ape had already absorbed more than half of the red flame gold before the people from the Heaven Jian sect arrived. Therefore, the Scarlet Blaze Gold had completely fused with the devil ape's body. What was dug out was not a rock, but a ball of filthy and smelly meat. Mayan fights back her nausea and places the stinky red flame gold and black ghost wood in front of the Tian Mo Qin. The Tian Mo Qin vibrates incessantly, making a humming sound. However, what's strange is that the Scarlet Flame Gold and the mysterious ghost wood aren't directly absorbed by the Tian Mo Qin sound like the mysterious heaven orb. What's going on? Mayan asks curiously, why isn't the Tian Mo Qin swallowing it? Qi Huang shows a disgusted expression, gnashing his teeth as he glares at the demon ape's corpse. This disgusting beast, it actually used the black ghost wood as a tooth grinder, swallowed the Scarlet Flame Gold, and even fused it with its internal organs. Who would want to swallow such a disgusting thing? Chapter 2249. Mu Yan's mouth twitches as she touches the Tian Mo Qin. "So, you're disgusted by their filth?" Buzz buzz buzz. The violent vibrations express the Tian Mo Qin's strong will. Mu Yan is speechless. Then what can I do? The stench of the wood can't be washed away, and the red flame gold has completely integrated into the flesh. You won't swallow it. Did I risk my life to find these two things in vain? Forget about the red flame gold. Mu Yan has already told Qi Huang to find a way to wash off the disgusting layer of saliva on the wood. Needless to say, it can't be washed away. It made sense when one thought about it. The real profound ghost wood was completely hidden under that layer of sticky substance. That's why Qi Huang couldn't sense it at all, and the people of Heaven Jian sect didn't even notice the wood when it was right next to them. If it was so easy to wash away, the Woodfern secret realm wouldn't have opened so many times, and it wouldn't have been her turn to take advantage of it. But the problem is that she's besieged on all sides and in danger. She urgently needs the Tian Mo Qin to advance and improve her strength. No, you have to swallow these two materials. Mu Yan makes the wood and the red flame gold float in the air, about to stuff them into the Tian Mo Qin's body. The Tian Mo Qin struggles violently, but it can't break free from Mu Yan's clutches. Jun Mu Yan, you dare. Qi Huang roars and pounces on Mu Yan, throwing her to the ground. You dare make my body eat such disgusting things, I'm not done with you. Mu Yan is caught off guard and is pressed down on the grass, so the red flame gold and the wood naturally fall down. The Tian Mo Qin immediately dodges the two stinky things perfectly. It also makes a few harsh notes, expressing its disgust. Mu Yan looks at Qi Huang, who is pressing down on her with a desperate stance, and feels helpless. Okay, I won't feed you, right? What kind of magic tool has what kind of spirit? Isn't it just an advancement material if I swallow it? Seeing that Qi Huang is still pressing down on her, she quickly pushes him away. Hey, I promised you I wouldn't force the Tian Mo Qin to swallow, so why are you still pressing me? Why aren't you getting out? Qi Huang was still in a daze at first, unable to react to what he had done. When he hears Mayan's words, his handsome face immediately flushes red. Like a cat whose tail has been stepped on, he quickly jumps up from Mu Yan's body, turns around and runs. Hey, Qi Shao Huang, do you have a way to restore the scarlet flame gold and the mystic ghost wood to their original state? Mu Yan called out. In the end, Seven Brilliance's figure disappeared faster than a ghost, hiding in the book pagoda in the blink of an eye. Mu Yan couldn't help but burst out laughing, little brat. Then, he glanced at the scarlet flame gold and mysterious ghost wood that he despised and let out a long sigh. Back when he'd been so eager to enter the Woodfern secret realm to snatch the two treasures, how could he have imagined that they would be treated with such disdain? It seemed that he could only rely on himself for the upcoming battle. In a valley within the Woodfern secret realm, more than 10 cultivators were besieging a rank 9 gold python and a rank 9 fire python. The enormous snake tail was raised high, and then swung out, throwing several xiuzha onto the ground and causing them to spit out blood. But soon, white raindrops fell from the sky. The raindrops soaked through the xiuzha's bodies, gradually healing their wounds and allowing them to return to the battle. When the raindrops fell on the xiuzha's bodies, their movements slowed down. Chapter 2250. More and more cultivators surrounded them, and finally, the two pythons could not hold on any longer. They howled in pain and fell to the ground. Great, we finally killed those two rank 9 pythons. Ha, it's all thanks to young Master Shue's help that this operation could go so smoothly. Yes, the Shue family's little art of cloud and rain is truly the world's #1 support technique. I couldn't believe that my wounds could heal in such a short time. Also, the fire python's flame attack and the golden python's corrosive attack could have caused us casualties, but because of young Master Shue's cloud and rain, the two beasts' attacks were mostly ineffective. All the cultivators surrounded a young master in the center. This person was called Xue Huai, the eldest grandson of the southern continent's Xue family. He was also a member of the Qilin team and the older brother of Xue Huailu, the former champion of the Ganhua Proclamation. His talent was actually not as good as Xue Huailu's. But in the cultivation continent, his reputation was far greater than Xue Huailu's. Xue Huai knew from a young age that his talent was not as good as his younger brother's, so he focused on the two support techniques, Little Art of Cloud and Rain and Soul Subduing Rain. Day after day, year after year, his mastery of these two support techniques grew stronger, far surpassing Xue Huailu and even his father. The Shui family, which originally only valued Shui Huailu, also realized Shui Huai's importance and began to nurture him. Especially after Shui Huailu lost the champion of the Ganhua Proclamation and was heavily injured at Dragon Soar Academy. The Shui family poured all their resources into him. Shui Huai enjoyed the feeling of being valued and sought after, but he knew that his talent was not good. What he had now was far from enough for him to take charge of the Shui family and make a name for himself. He still needed one more thing, something very important. Shui Huai completely ignored the surrounding cultivators' adoration and flattery and said lightly, "I want the 2 pythons' yao cores, fangs, and gallbladders. You can divide the rest." Everyone's expressions froze. These 3 things were the most valuable on the pythons. They had fought so hard for so long, but Shui Huai took them all for himself. Shui Huai looked at their hesitant expressions and laughed coldly. "What? Any objections? I wouldn't dare." When everyone saw the Shui family's guards standing behind Shui Huai, they shook their heads and smiled. "Without young Master Shui, how could we have killed those 2 pythons? Young Master Shui deserves these things." Shui Huai sneered and signaled his subordinates to collect it. Suddenly, he looked at the tree that the fire python was coiling around. Perhaps it was because the fire python was active here all year round, but there were actually a few red flowers growing under the big tree. A middle-aged female cultivator was running towards those flowers. Shui Huai's heart skipped a beat. He turned to his subordinates and said, "Go collect all the fire leaf orchids." "Yes, young master." When Cheng Mei saw that she wasn't able to obtain the fire leaf orchid in the demonic ape valley, she decided to try her luck elsewhere. Unexpectedly, heaven never bars one's way. She actually found a few stalks of fire orchid under the spiritual plant where the rank 9 fire python was entrenched. Thus, Cheng Mei and the other cultivators threw themselves into the battle against the 2 pythons. From the start, she had made it clear that she didn't want anything but the fire leaf orchid. During the battle, Cheng Mei fought with all her might, completely ignoring the fact that she would be injured. Chapter 2251. I only want the zither in Mayan's hands, too. She was the one who gave the fire python its final blow. But at the same time, she also suffered a very serious internal injury. It's an injury that even the little art of cloud and rain can't cure. However, Cheng Mei doesn't care about the pain in her body at all. She's very happy because she finally got the fire orchid. Her child can finally be saved. However, just as Cheng Mei's hand is about to reach for the fire orchid, suddenly, a strong force hits her from the side, directly knocking her to the ground. Immediately after, all the fire orchid has been plucked clean. Cheng Mei climbs up from the ground and shouts in panic, "Fire orchid, that's my fire orchid, give me back the fire orchid." Just like that, she stumbles all the way to Shui Huai. Seeing that the subordinate gives all the fire orchid to Shui Huai, Cheng Mei promptly begs, "Shui de Gongzi, I really need the fire orchid. I beg you, give me one, okay? Is one enough for me?" Shui Huai looks at her in disgust. Where did this crazy woman come from? What I, Shui Huai, want, isn't something you can covet. Cheng Mei falls to her knees and kowtows heavily. "Shui de Gongzi, my child is waiting for the fire orchid to save his life. It's useless for you to have so many fire orchid, I beg you, give me one, give me one." A cultivator on the side can't bear to see this scene and whispers, "Mei Nyang really put in a lot of effort to kill the fire python. In the end, it was thanks to her attracting the fire python's attention despite her own injuries that we could succeed." "That's right, she said from the beginning that she only wants the fire orchid, and that she won't share the other treasures with us." The whispers from the surroundings reached Shui Huai's ears, making him frown slightly. And Mei Nyang is still kowtowing over and over again. Shui Huai narrows his eyes and slowly walks in front of her, looking down at her. "You want a fire orchid?" "Yes, yes. I only want one." Cheng Mei raised her head in surprise. She thought that Shui Huai was finally going to be merciful and give her a stalk. "Young Master Shui, as long as you give me a stalk of fire orchid, I'm willing to do anything for you in the future. Ah! Before she could finish, Shui Huai had already lifted his foot and kicked her hard in the chin. Cheng Mei was sent flying. Her face was covered in blood as she cried out in pain. She struggled for a long time but was unable to get up. Shui Huai retracted his leg and sneered, "Ignorant trash wants my things." As he spoke, he took out a stalk of fire orchid. Cheng Mei raised her bloodied face and looked at the fire orchid in his hand excitedly. In the next instant, Shui Huai threw the fireleaf orchid in his hand onto the ground and stomped on it with his foot. Laughing heartily, he said, "Even if I have to destroy this young master's things, I won't let trash like you have it." Ah! My fireleaf orchid. My child. Cheng Mei let out a hysterical cry as she spat out mouthfuls of blood. The surrounding cultivators looked at her with pity, but due to the power of the Shui family, no one dared to say anything. Shui Huai frowned in disgust and was about to order his subordinates to get rid of this crazy woman. Suddenly, two figures appeared in the sky like lightning and knelt in front of Shui Huai. "Young master, there's news of Jun Mian." "What?" Shui Huai immediately threw Cheng Mei to the back of his mind and said excitedly, "Quickly tell me, where is Jun Mian?" Just 6 hours ago, Jun Mian and her two senior and junior brothers, Raging Flame Blade, Leng Yuma and Thousand Hands Godly Summoner, Lan Luoyu, stole the Scarlet Flame Gold from the demonic Ape Valley. Chapter 2252. I only want Jun Mian's zither, too. The three elders of the Heaven Jian sect are furious and have issued a bounty in the Woodfern secret realm. Anyone who finds the three will be rewarded with an 8th grade spirit artifact, and anyone who kills one of them will be rewarded with a 9th grade spirit artifact. If you can capture Jun Mian alive, the Heaven Jian sect will reward you with 3 quasi-divine artifacts. Every cultivator present sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard that. An 8th grade spirit artifact for their tracks. If he could capture Mian alive, he could even get 3 quasi-divine tools. Greed and excitement flashed in everyone's eyes. Cheng Mei was the only one in a daze. Demonic Ape Valley, 3 people, stole from the Heaven Jian sect? No way. Could it be the 3 I met? Shui Huai snickered, the Heaven Jian sect sure is generous. Where are Elder Yu and the others now? Take me to them. Yes, young master. Heaven Jian sect's headquarters. Elder Yu sent his subordinate flying with a slap, roaring, "Trash! Trash! It's been 6 hours and you can't even find the 3 of them." Whether it was the disciples of the Heaven Jian sect or the hired cultivators, all of them were trembling in fear. Suddenly, someone came in to report, "Elder Yu, young master Shui requests an audience." Shui Huai of the Shui family. What is he here for? Shui Huai went straight to the point the moment he entered the tent. "Elder Yu, I'm here to cooperate with you. I guarantee that with my help, you'll be able to capture Jun Mian in the shortest time possible." Elder Yu narrowed his eyes and chuckled, "If young master Shui can help us capture Jun Mian, the Heaven Jian sect will offer you 3 quasi-divine artifacts. There's no need for them. The Shui family doesn't lack them." Elder Yu's expression darkened. "Does young master Shui want the Scarlet Blaze Gold too?" "No." Shui Huai said slowly, "I only want the zither in Jun Mian's hands." In the jungle, a rustling sound came from afar. Luoyu, who was meditating, opened her eyes and barked, "Who's there?" Ever since she had advanced, Luoyu's divine sense had become much stronger than before. His senses had also become sharper. Mu Yan and Leng Yuma also opened their eyes. Leng Yuma even took out her long blade and said coldly, "If you don't come out, don't blame me for burning you and all these bushes." "No, no, no. 3 gods, it's me, it's me. Please don't do it." A short and fat figure emerged from the bushes. When he saw the 3 of them, he revealed a flattering smile. "3 gods, do you still remember me? Mu Yan and the others really do recognize this person." He was one of the people who had followed them into the mystic realm. It's just that, at first, this person relied on Su Loi and scolded Mu Yen a few times. Later on, he paid almost all of his wealth to save his little life. Originally, there were too many people who followed them into the core area, so Mu Yen might not necessarily remember them. However, this man's appearance was too unique. He had a small nose and small eyes, just like a ball. Mu Yan's protector mocked him, "If you had the ability, then leave. Now that you want to come back and ask for Jun Mayan's protection, come back if you have the ability." In the end, in order to survive, this guy really curled up into a ball and rolled several times in the air like an acrobat. That's why Mu Yen and the others had a deep impression of him. Leng Yuma said bluntly, "What are you doing here? You want the treasure back?" Chapter 2253. Someone set up an ambush. 1. No, no, no. I am willing to give the entire Shen family to you. The short and fat man said. Then why are you here? The short and fat man looked around and said cautiously, "You may not know, but I found a fire phoenix fruit in the north of the forest. What's more, there are no ferocious beasts around it, only some magical vines. My sword is too blunt to cut those vines, so I wanted to find a weapon. I didn't expect to meet you here." Fire phoenix fruit? Luo Yu said excitedly, "Is it the spiritual fruit that can help little ball advance?" Sixth senior sister, let's go get it. Fat rabbit, little ball and Bai Xia stayed with Xiao Bao. But the fire phoenix clone stayed with Mu Yen. Even through the clone, Mu Yen could feel little ball's happiness and desire. The short and fat man smiled flatteringly, "The fire phoenix fruit is such a precious thing, how can a lowly person like me deserve it? I am willing to lead the way for you." Mu Yen looked at him with a faint smile, "You're quite clever." I wouldn't dare. Great God Jun, you're my savior. This lowly one should repay you." The short and fat man bowed respectfully. As he turned around, his beady eyes burst out with a vicious light. The four of them quickly moved through the forest. Slowly, there were fewer and fewer trees in the forest. In the end, there were even fewer trees. There was only a thin tree a few meters away from him. And the ground between the trees was barren, as if it had been scorched by something. The phoenix lives in the phoenix tree, the fire tail scorches the earth. Mu Yen murmured, "It really is the fire phoenix fruit." The pudgy man smiled and said, "How could this little one dare to deceive you, great deity Jun? Look! That is the phoenix tree that grows the fire phoenix fruit." The three of them looked in the direction the short and fat man pointed. Not far away, there was a towering tree standing alone. Around it, there was no trace of green, only scorched earth. However, there were many dark purple vines wrapped around the wudong tree, and they were growing very vigorously. They almost wrapped around the entire wudong tree tightly. But in the center of the wudong tree, a golden red light shone out. That should be the fire phoenix fruit. When he was about 100 meters away from the parasol tree, the ground became soft and hot. The short and fat man stopped and said with an embarrassed smile, "Three great masters, you go and get the fire phoenix fruit. I'm not good at it, and I'm afraid that I'll be attacked by the black flood dragon vine." The attention of Mu Yen and the other two were all focused on the fire phoenix fruit. Hearing this, they did not care, and waved their hands to indicate that he could do as he pleased. The short and fat man stood where he was. The flattering and timid expression on his face slowly turned into ferocious greed. He took out a silver ball from his chest and silently threw it towards the three people flying towards the fire phoenix fruit. However, as soon as the short and fat man threw the ball in his hand, he felt a cold aura coming from his back. Then, a pleasant, heavenly voice rang in his ears. "Poison fire thunderball. Ha! Your way of repaying kindness is really unique." The short and fat man suddenly opened his eyes wide, horrified to find that There were no three figures flying towards the parasol tree in front of him. And the thunderball he threw did not explode in front of him. Instead, it appeared in front of him. Chapter 2254. Someone set up an ambush, too, asking for tickets. The pudgy man cries out in alarm. How is this possible? Why would you guys detect that you're up to no good? Luo Yu rolls her eyes. You idiot, you're just short of putting the words, I'm scum, on your face. If we couldn't detect it, wouldn't we be sorry for our brains? The pudgy man trembles all over. No, don't kill me. I was forced, I was wrong, please let me go. Mu Yan chuckles softly behind him. Why are you so flustered? Don't you want to repay me for saving your life? Only now does the pudgy man realize what kind of person he's plotting against. Murderous god Jun Mu Yan. It's not like he hasn't experienced her methods before, right? How could he be blinded by lard, vainly trying to plot against her? The pudgy man's face is covered with snot and tears, and his crotch has long since disappeared. I was wrong, Jun. Great god Jun, I'm willing to tell you who instigated me. Please spare my life, spare your life. What a pity, you've already wasted your only chance. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth rises, and with lightning speed, she stuffs the thunderball in her hand into the pudgy man's mouth, then ruthlessly kicks him. The pudgy man's whole body flies out, smashing into the north side of the wudong tree. Almost at the same moment he lands, there's a loud bang. The pudgy man's body explodes into broken bones and flesh, scattering in all directions along with the poisonous smoke. Cough, run. Damn it, this woman discovered our ambush. Mu Yan and the other two calmly watch as the cultivators reveal themselves one by one. Some of them jumped down from the wudong tree, and some of them crawled out of the soil. And the direction where Mu Yan just kicked the pudgy man out, is precisely the place where the people in ambush are the most concentrated. This explosion has left many people covered in dust, and half of their bodies have been blown to pieces, wailing in pain from time to time. As expected of Jun Mu Yan. I even used my Shui family's most precious fire phoenix fruit as bait, but you still didn't fall for it. A voice slowly comes from the center of the black jiao vine. Then, a young man leaped down from above. Those black jiao vines seem to be alive, wrapping half of them around the tree and wrapping around the fire phoenix fruit. The other half winds down with the young man and hovers around his feet. After losing half of the black jiao vines, Mu Yan discovers that there are actually two fire phoenix fruits. It was just that it was extremely small and lusterless. From afar, it looked no different from a normal spirit fruit. The other one emitted a brilliant golden red light, and the aura it exuded was incomparably alluring. Xiao Xiao Mu Mu Yan, Jiu Xiao Tu. Leng Yuma's voice brought Mu Yan back to her senses. She shifted her gaze from the fire phoenix fruit to the man, narrowed her eyes, and suddenly said, What are you and Shui Huailu? Hearing that, the man laughs heartily. Jun Mayan, it's hard for you to still remember my good-for-nothing younger brother. I Mu Yu, I to you, to, Shui, I, to, Shui to, I, to, I, Shui to. Before Shui Huai can say anything, several figures have already fallen from the sky. The leader is Elder Qi of the Heaven Jian sect. When he sees Mu Yan, he immediately gnashes his teeth. Shameless thief, hand over the scarlet gold. There will be a new chapter this week, I'm looking forward to it. He, remember to vote, don't waste the monthly vote at the end of the month. Chapter 2255. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Mu Yan's brows imperceptibly wrinkle. There were already 8 peak nascent soul cultivators and 1 out-of-body cultivator here. There were dozens of nascent soul cultivators of other levels. It would not be so easy to escape this time. However, her expression didn't change at all. She said with a faint smile, did the Heaven Jian sect admit that they gave me the demonic ape's corpse? What? After discovering that the scarlet flame gold wasn't in the lava pool, he wanted to go back on his word? I wonder who the shameless one is. Hee, I'm sorry. Transaction complete, no refunds. Elder Qi was infuriated. They were 3 dignified elders of the Heaven Jian sect, but they were fooled by a little girl. His gums clench, a savage light bursts out from his eyes. Jun Mayan, no matter how glib your tongue is today, I will make sure you die without a complete corpse. As soon as he finished speaking, he prepared to attack. However, Xue Huai reached out and stopped him. Elder Qi, don't be angry. Let me talk to them. After saying that, he pointed to the wudong tree. Jun Mayan, you want this ripe fire phoenix fruit, right? How about we make a deal? Return the flame gold to the Heaven Jian sect and give me your zither. Not only will I spare your lives, but I will also give you the fire phoenix fruit. How about it? When he said this, Xue Huai's face was high and mighty, as if he was giving alms. He also believes that Jun Mayan will definitely compromise. Because nothing was more important than his own life. The corner of Mayan's mouth slowly hooks up, and with a wave of her hand, the Tian Mo Qin appears. What should I do? I don't want to give you the scarlet flame gold and the Tian Mo Qin, but, the fire phoenix fruit, I want it. Xue Huai's face darkened. Bitch, you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Elder Qi, kill her 2 accomplices and chop off her limbs. I want to see how arrogant she can be then. After that, he raised his hands in the air and waved them around desperately. The sky began to drizzle. The rain stuck to their bodies, causing Luo Yu and Leng Yuma's movements to become sluggish. The circulation of their spirit energy was also obstructed. However, the 2 of them didn't feel the slightest bit of fear in the face of the dozens of nascent soul cultivators. Instead, they were able to laugh and talk wittily. Xue Da's rain seems to be slightly more powerful than his useless brother's. Whatever. Whether it's powerful or not, isn't it still scattered by junior sister? Wait a minute, which side will you choose? When I just advanced, I thought of a new move. I can give it a try. Ha, what a coincidence. 4th senior sister has also thought of a new move. I have it too. I'll choose the left one then. To my right. Junior sister, I'll leave the support and the elders to you. Mu Yen smiles faintly, her fingers suddenly pluck on the strings. Clang. An ear-piercing sound rang in everyone's ears, like a bolt of lightning falling from the sky. It was like a ray of sunlight piercing through the dark clouds. The sound of the zither became more and more impassioned, like a stampede of 10,000 horses, subverting everything. Xue Huai's expression became uglier and uglier, and his expression became more and more incredulous. Impossible. How is this possible? As the sound of the zither resounded, he actually gradually lost his connection with his own cloud rain. In the midst of his bewilderment, Xue Huai suddenly felt dizzy. Everything in front of him starts to blur. The hand that was originally manipulating the little art of cloud and rain also stops. Chapter 2256. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. He fell to the side in a daze. Eldest young master, eldest young master. The servants of the Xue family rushed over to help him up. However, Xue Huai, who was in high spirits just a moment ago, now had a pair of lifeless eyes. He was half asleep, as if he had fallen into some kind of dream. Xue Huai's subordinates all looked at the girl playing the zither in shock. Especially Xue Zhong, who was in charge of protecting Xue Huai. He was a leaving aperture stage expert and had served the Xue clan loyally for decades. In the past, he had been assigned to protect Xue Huailu. It was only after Xue Huailu was crippled that he was placed by Xue Huai's side. Back then, he had heard that Xue Huailu had completely lost to a young girl in terms of support. Shui Zhong specifically went to look for the photographic talisman of the competition. He was horrified and shocked by the strength of this girl called Mayan. However, Shui Zhong never expected that the eldest young master, who was supposed to be stronger than Shui Huailu, would be able to defeat Shui Huailu. Against Jun Mayan, when the two of them compete in support, Shui Huai was defeated even faster than Shui Huailu. How was this possible? How could Shui Zhong have imagined that Shui Huai was stronger than Shui Huailu? But in this month, Mu Yan's improvement was far greater than the two brothers. As a result, Shui Huai suffered a crushing defeat at Mu Yan's hands, seeing that Shui Huai was half unconscious and that the little art of cloud and rain had lost its effect. Feather grace had already begun to take effect. Shui Zhong could no longer sit still and roared, "Let this old man fight you." He shot out like an arrow from a bow. Elder Qi, on the other hand, was faster than Shui Zhong and had already rushed in front of Mu Yan. He held a golden wheel in his hand. The golden wheel flickered with flames as it flew towards Mu Yan. Mayan turns her hand over and the Tian Mo Qin instantly disappears, turning into the 7 absolute swords. Lotus blossoming steps crisscrossed, and the golden wheel whizzed over, but it only shattered a phantom. The 7 ultimate swords slashed down from the sky like a violent storm, ceaselessly. Astral domain was silently released, enveloping the entire battlefield. Holding the golden wheel in his hand, Elder Qi withstood the relentless barrage of attacks. He could only feel the blood and qi in his body churning and his arms going numb. The shock in his heart was simply indescribable. He was a leaving aperture realm cultivator. But what about this girl in front of him? She was only at the first level of nascent soul. But now, he, an astral projection cultivator, was being suppressed by a little girl in the nascent soul realm? Elder Qi was shocked and enraged at the same time. He glanced at the battlefield from the corner of his eyes and his heart trembled. It's not just Mayan. There were also the other 2 members of the Carefree team. Each of them was facing more than 10 nascent soul cultivators, yet they were able to move freely and even fight back occasionally. And this was only 3 people. What if all 7 members of the Carefree squad were gathered together? Elder Qi didn't dare to think any further. At the same time, a strong sense of crisis surged in his heart. Jun Mayan is too scary. Not only because of her combat strength, but also because of her support ability. Her existence meant that the strength of the Carefree squad, which was originally powerful, had been doubled. Now, the 2 sides had already become sworn enemies. If she was allowed to continue growing, she would definitely pose a fatal threat to the Heaven Jian sect. Kill her. He had to kill her here. Elder Qi suddenly shouted, "All the peak nascent soul disciples, come here and kill Mayan." Yes, Elder. The peak nascent soul cultivators of the Heaven Jian sect all rushed over after receiving the order. At this time, the people led by Shui Zhong also arrived in a flash. Chapter 2257. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Everyone surrounded Mayan. Elder Qi sneered. Jun Mayan, you won't be able to escape today. Mayan's lips curled into a sinister smile. Is that so? That's not necessarily true. Having said that, the spiritual power in her body ignited. Her figure moved as fast as lightning, rushing towards the 2 peak nascent soul cultivators. Watch out! Elder Qi exclaimed. Unfortunately, it was too late. The 7 absolute swords in Mayan's hands had split into 2, red and blue. She crossed her hands, the swords flashing. Whoosh! The 2 swords whistled through the air. The 2 nascent soul cultivators didn't even have time to react before they felt a chill on their necks. Then, they lost consciousness. Mayan soared into the air, combining the 2 swords into one, turning them back into the Tian Mo Qin. Her face was pale, and her figure was slender. She looked so weak that a gust of wind could blow her away. But everyone below looked at her as if they were looking at a monster. Mayan raised her brows, looking down at Elder Qi and the others. You want to kill me, Jun Mayan, with such a small group of people? You're far from enough. Elder Qi's body couldn't stop trembling. He looked at the two peak nascent soul cultivators who couldn't be more dead, and his heart was bleeding. Peak nascent soul cultivators were the elites of the Heaven Jian sect. How many resources had been spent to nurture them? But this Jun Mayan, she casually slashed him to death with 2 strokes of her sword. In fact, Mayan's 2 swords weren't casual at all. This was a set of sword technique that she had comprehended from her youngest martial uncle's blood slaughter sword formation day after day and after she had condensed her sword heart. Although her junior uncle had given her a lot of swordsmanship manuals, he had also told her that the most suitable swordsmanship for her wouldn't be someone else's, but one that belonged solely to her. Therefore, apart from the basic swordsmanship that her junior uncle had taught her, Mayan hadn't practiced any other swordsmanship. Instead, she had been comprehending the blood-slaughtering swords array. Finally, hard work paid off. When she entered the Woodfern secret realm, she comprehended 3 swordsmanship techniques that belonged solely to her, Jun Mayan. The move that just killed the Heaven Jian sect disciple was one of the 3 moves, Swimming Dragon Double Slash. This move, together with the Lotus Steps and the 7 Absolute Swords, could silently take the heads of enemies in all directions. It could be said to be extremely ghostly and murderous. The only drawback was that it consumed too much spiritual energy and stamina, so it could not be used for a long time. This was also the common weakness of the 3 sword techniques that Mu Yan had created. Suddenly, a warning flashes in Mu Yan's mind. She abruptly dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding Shui Zhong's attack. However, he still felt a chill on his left shoulder. Half of his shoulder was frozen. Mu Yan turned his head to look, only to see Shui Zhong holding a long sword that was emitting cold air, looking at her. Almost at the same time, the people of the Shui family, Elder Qi, and the disciples of the Heaven Jian sect rushed forward and surrounded her. Shui Zhong looked at her pale face and sneered, "Miss Jun's strength is really beyond my imagination. You killed 2 peak nascent soul cultivators with just a wave of your hand. I admit that even I can't do it. But I think that this kind of move should be a great burden on Miss Jun, right? Ha, you just used a supplementary skill, but you're just a first-stage nascent soul cultivator. How long can your spiritual energy last?" Hearing Shui Zhong's words, the people of the Heaven Jian sect, who were still afraid of Mayan's instant death, suddenly felt confident. Chapter 2258. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. They approached her one after another. Mu Yan smiled mockingly when she heard that. "Elder Shui, I'm sorry to trouble you. Even if I'm out of spiritual power, I can just replenish it." Shui Zhong warned, "Be careful if she takes the medicine, and don't give her time to digest the spiritual restoration pill." Nonetheless, he stopped abruptly before he could finish his sentence. This was because Mu Yan did not intend to take the medicine at all. Instead, she gently plucked the zither strings. Echo Aura was activated. Rich spiritual power without any side effects instantly replenished her dantian. Even Ling Yuma and Luo Yu's consumed spiritual power began to recover quickly. Shui Zhong widened his mouth and could not believe his eyes. How can this be? How can there be spiritual power recovery assistance so quickly? That's impossible. Next, Mu Yan disappeared from where she was standing. 2 more swoosh sounds were heard, and 2 bloody heads and bodies fell to the ground. The heads even rolled a few times before they landed below Shui Zhong. They died with grievances and stared straight at Shui Zhong. This time, 2 people from the Shui family died. On the other hand, Mu Yan stepped on the 7 absolute swords and flew above the wudong tree. Her pleasant laughter could be vaguely heard in the wind. "Elder Shui, courtesy demands reciprocity. This is my way of repaying your concern." This time, Shui Zhong was the one who was trembling from anger instead of Elder Qi. Mu Yan's eyebrows twitched all of a sudden. She extended her divine sense far away and sensed a vast spiritual power fluctuation coming from afar. Looks like the Heaven Jian sect and the Shui family's reinforcements have arrived. Fourth senior sister, Xiaoqi, let's retreat. Upon hearing that, Leng Yuma and Luo Yu immediately launched fierce attacks. They easily broke free from the encirclement and arrived beside Mu Yan. It was so damn satisfying to kill. Leng Yuma's face was still stained with blood, but she was all smiles. Little junior sister, why are you retreating all of a sudden? Mu Yan responded, their reinforcements are coming. If we're surrounded, it won't be satisfying for us to kill, but for them to catch us like turtles in a jar. In fact, the reason why they were able to deal with the Heaven Jian sect with such ease was not because of their saber techniques, sword techniques, or puppets. Instead, it was the ghostly, lotus steps, and the derivation talisman. Otherwise, no matter how strong they were, the people from the Heaven Jian sect would be able to drag them to death. However, there was a limit to the speed of this footwork technique. If there were another double the number of people, then it wouldn't just be fun, it would be over for them. The two of them immediately said, all right, let's retreat. Wait. Mu Yan looked at the parasol tree. It's not easy for us to purposely set a trap. If we don't take the bait with us, wouldn't it be too much of a loss? After saying that, she tapped her foot lightly, and the 7 absolute swords flew toward the wudong tree. Just as she was about to use the 7 absolute swords to cut off the black dragon vine and take the 2 fire phoenix fruits, suddenly, all the black jiao vines seemed to have come to life, madly entangling her hands and feet. Ha ha ha. Just when Mu Yan was unable to move, Shui Huai's laughter came from below. I knew you wouldn't be willing to part with this fire phoenix fruit. That's why I took the risk to leave my Shui family's most precious fire phoenix fruit there, in order to lure you into the trap. He didn't know when, but he had already woken up from the dream that Mu Yan had woven for him. At this moment, he was looking at Mu Yan with resentment. Then, his line of sight turned and fell on the 7 absolute swords. Just now, he saw with his own eyes that the zither in Mu Yan's hands had turned into a sword that could cut iron like mud. Chapter 2259. In 1 second, 800 mail sign small divided by TalkNet, wonderful pop-up window free reading. This zither is definitely a treasure. It must be the reason why Mayan is so powerful. And this zither is going to be his soon. Ha 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 ha. Shui Huai directed the black serpent vine to bind Mayan tighter, while he soared into the sky under the protection of his subordinates. How is it, Mayan, I'm still better than you, right? A woman will always be a woman. Any bait can make you walk right into the trap. Leng Yuma and Luo Yu's faces changed when they saw this, and they quickly rushed over to help. At that moment, Mayan sighed softly from the black serpent vine. Qi Shao Huang, don't blame me for throwing trash inside. If you want to blame someone, blame this idiot. At most, I'll beat him into a pig's head later to vent your anger. After that, she reached out and touched the black serpent vine. Then, the smile on Shui Huai's face completely froze. This was because the black serpent vine that was wrapped around Mayan's face had disappeared. The wudong tree that was wrapped around the black serpent vine had also disappeared. The immature fire phoenix fruit on the wudong tree, as well as the mature fire phoenix fruit that Shui Huai had placed on it as bait, had all disappeared. Shui Huai opened his mouth but could not make a sound for a long time. You, what did you do? Where's my black serpent vine? Where's my fire phoenix fruit? Mayan smiled wholeheartedly. Thank you, eldest young master Shui, for sending your Shui family's treasure to me from afar. No. Return the fire phoenix fruit to me, it's a treasure that I need for my advancement. Bitch, give me back my fire phoenix fruit. Shui Huai pounced on her like a madman, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. Mayan sneered and took 2 steps back, then she said to Luo Yu who was rushing over, beat him into a pig's head. Okay. Luo Yu responded and shook her hands excitedly. Countless little puppets buzzed as they flew toward Shui Huai's face. The little puppets were only the size of a beetle, but they had a pair of sharp wings. They received their master's order and pounced on Shui Huai's face. Pa 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 pa. Shui Huai let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. Drops of blood splattered like raindrops. By the time Elder Shui Zhongqi and the others arrived, the little puppets had already completed their mission. They fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Shui Huai's face was too horrible to look at. Mu Yan and the others have already disappeared without a trace. The figure in the sky whistled as he landed. Elder Yu shouted, "Where is he? Where is that demoness?" Elder Qi's face was bitter as he lowered his head in shame. Elder Yu roared, "You didn't catch him. You're just a leaving body realm cultivator, and you have so many nascent soul cultivators, but you can't even catch 3 people. Which direction did he go? Chase. Give chase immediately." Elder Qi points to the west and gnashes his teeth. "Qi Minghui, swear to the heavens that if I don't dismember that witch Jun Mayan into 1,000 pieces, I will end my own life in this world." Shui Huai cried out in pain and regained consciousness under Shui Zhong's treatment. The heartache of losing the fire phoenix fruit and the black serpent vine, as well as the humiliation he just suffered, made him want to die. Clutching his scarred face, Shui Huai roared indistinctly, "Kill! Kill that bitch! Gather everyone in the Shui family and issue an order to capture Jun Mayan. I must dismember that bitch. Have you heard? The Heaven Jian sect and the Shui family have joined forces with all the cultivators in the core region of the Woodfern Secret Realm to kill God Jun and the others." Chapter 2260. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. How could this be? Chinda and the rest were filled with worry. Boss, how could they offend such a powerful force? Moreover, he had offended 2 families at once. If they were outside, it would be fine. Perhaps they could think of a way to avoid it. Unfortunately, the core region of the Woodfern Secret Realm was only so big. The Heaven Jian sect and the Shui family had searched everywhere. How could the 3 members of the Xiaoyao team escape? Li Xiuxiu said anxiously, "Then what should we do? Should we think of a way to help boss and the rest?" "Help? With our meager strength, how can we help?" Chinda laughed bitterly. "Merciful Buddha, as long as we don't burden boss." "Ha, this is all the fault of the 3 members of the Carefree Squad. Especially Jun Mayan." Suddenly, a few sarcastic voices came from the side. "God just can't stand her being too arrogant, that's why he let more powerful people watch them." "You, how can you talk like that?" Chen Hui, the girl who worshipped Mu Yan, was so angry that her face turned red. "Weren't you the ones who begged Jun Mo Xia to sell those talismans to save his life? No matter what, Jun Mo Xia is your savior. This is how you repay kindness with enmity." Bah! The male cultivator who spoke spat, "That bitch dared to extort all the treasures from me. Now, she deserves her retribution, fleeing like a street rat." "Ha ha ha, maybe he's already been killed, and his corpse has been cut into pieces." "Nonsense. Jun Mo Xia and the others are so powerful. They won't die." As they were arguing, they suddenly saw a large group of sword cultivators come down from the sky and land beside the lake. These people were wearing the uniform of the Heaven Jian school, and their leader was Elder Qi. Therefore, when this group of people appeared, the other cultivators were immediately driven away. The people of the Heaven Jian sect quickly set up a tent beside the lake to protect themselves. Only then did they respectfully invite Elder Qi in. However, Elder Qi's face was gloomy and he did not move. The Heaven Jian sect disciple at his side observes his expression and cautiously says, "Master, don't worry. This time, we discovered the whereabouts of Jun Mayan and the other 2. Most of the people of Heaven Jian sect are chasing after them. Elder Yu and Elder Ping are among them. With the help of so many experts from the Shui family, that witch can't escape even if she grows wings. Elder Qi snorted softly, and his expression became much better. As for Chinda and the others who were eavesdropping, their faces turned pale. Actually, those three are nothing special. The disciple continued, other than the first time they caught us off guard, they have been hiding like street rats for the next few days. Elder Qi sneered, 3 ants, do you think you can overturn the heavens? Master is wise. The disciple laughed, so this time, they had nowhere to hide and were caught by Elder Yu and the others, right? Encircling them from 3 sides, there was absolutely no way for them to escape. Even if 1 or 2 of them run away, aren't you still here, Master, waiting for them to walk into the trap? The people of the Heaven Jian sect and the Shui family had almost sealed off the entire core area. Only Elder Qi's direction led to the most dangerous and treacherous forest of broken souls. Basically, no one would go there to seek death. Therefore, they didn't send a heavy guard. But to be safe, they still arranged for Elder Qi to wait for the rabbit, just in case. Listening to the narration of the two, Chinda and the others' hearts sank little by little. With such an inescapable net, even if Jun Mo Xia and the others had the ability to transcend the heavens, it would still be impossible for them to survive. Chapter 2261. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. The others burst into laughter. I've said it before. Jun Mayan and the others have overestimated themselves and offended the Tianjian sect and the Shui family. This time, they're doomed. The sky gradually darkened. The area around the Heaven Jian sect's tent fell into silence. Chinda and the others gathered together and discussed in low voices, no matter what, I can't let boss fall into a desperate situation. That's right. Let's go to the place where they're encircling and taking a look. Maybe we can help boss. He, you must count me in for rescuing the beauty. Xiao Yunchuan's voice suddenly came, startling Chinda and the others. One of Xiao Yunchuan's subordinates tried to dissuade him. Young lord, although our Xiao family is on par with the Heavensight sect in terms of strength, we're in the Woodfern Pocket realm right now. Besides, there's still the Shui family of the southern continent. How can you take the risk? Long-winded. Xiao Yunchuan knocked on his subordinate's head with the jade flute. How can it be considered a risk to save a beauty? That was obviously, his luck with women wasn't shallow. TSK. You don't have to say anymore. The beauty Mayan has saved my life. No matter what, I won't let such a delicate beauty die. They gathered together to discuss how to help Mayan. However, no one noticed that in the silent night, 3 figures had quietly landed around the Heaven Jian sect's tent. In the darkness of the night, there seemed to be the faint sound of a zither. Hey, do you guys hear the sound of the zither? Why does it sound like Boss Jun's? Chinda and the others were still in shock. Suddenly, who is it? There are enemies. Be careful. The voice came from the direction of the Heaven Mirror sect. In the next moment, 2 silhouettes soared into the sky, one black and one white. Their auras were monstrous. The moonlight shone on the 2 of them, allowing all the awakened cultivators by the lake to see them clearly. Those 2 people were Elder Qi and Jun Mayan. Elder Qi grits his teeth as he looks at the beautiful girl under the moonlight. Jun Mayan, why are you here? Mayan slowly hooks up the corner of her lips, and the Tian Mo Qin in her hand turns into the 7 Absolute sword. Why am I here? Naturally, I'm here to take your dog life. This is our reward for the Heaven Jian sect's relentless pursuit of us for so many days. Elder Qi, how arrogant. A mere first-order nascent soul realm cultivator wants to take my life? Ha, Jun Mayan, since you came knocking on my door, then this old man will let you die by my hands. As soon as the two of them finished speaking, they didn't waste any more words. They shot out like arrows, leaving the bow and collided. The cultivators below all held their breaths. Even though they couldn't see the battle in the sky clearly, they still watched without blinking. Who will win? Isn't that obvious? What is June Mayan's cultivation? What is Elder Chi's cultivation? If she can win, I will immediately jump into the lake and never climb up again. The battle lasted for an entire hour. With a loud bang, the black and white figures separated from each other. Everyone stared fixedly at the sky above, and a question echoed in their hearts: who won? However, when they saw the scene in front of them clearly, their hearts almost jumped out of their throats. Under the moonlight, there was a young girl dressed in white, untainted by even a speck of dust. But in her hand, she was carrying a head that was dripping with blood. The male cultivator who just said, "June Mayan will jump into the lake if she wins," just happened to have a drop of blood splashed on his face. He blankly looked up, his face blank. Chapter 2262. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign /say net wonderful pop-up window free reading. Standing before her was the black-robed Elder Chi, a leaving aperture realm expert who was still in high spirits just an hour ago. At this moment, he had become a headless corpse. Bang! The corpse fell from the sky, crashing in front of everyone. The whole place was silent. At this moment, there was only one phrase echoing in their minds: alluring killing god. This is the real god of death, June Mayan. At this moment, two figures flew up into the sky. Leng Yuma wiped the blood off her face and said, "It's all cleaned up." "Junior sister, what do we do next?" Everything was cleaned up." What did that mean? Everyone turned their heads stiffly in the direction of the Heaven Jian sect's tent. Then, they were all dumbfounded. More than 20 nascent soul cultivators. Every one of them was a high-level cultivator, and a few of them were even at the peak of the nascent soul realm. However, within an hour, they were actually completely slaughtered by these two fiendish gods of the Carefree Squad. Heavens! Are these three fucking devils? Mu Yen looks at the road they came from and frowns. That group of ghosts is chasing us again. Come, let's go to the Broken Soul Forest. The three of them nodded and immediately left as fast as lightning. It was as silent as when it came, without any warning. Their departure left everyone in a daze. Is this the strength of the unfettered 7 devils of the azure blue world? Just the 3 of them are already so powerful, if there are 7 of them. Everyone present couldn't help but shiver. Chinda and the others, on the other hand, were overjoyed when they came back to their senses. Amazing! Boss and the others are too amazing. Ha ha ha, I told you that the great god June would be fine. God, I want to give up the identity of Yap Liangchen's loyal supporter and support June Mayan. A first-tier nascent soul cultivator killing a leaving aperture realm cultivator. Aw! Not only that, he even decapitated him. How cool! Suddenly, Chinda turned his head to look at the male cultivator who had mocked and ridiculed him. Who was the one who said that if the great god June won, he would sink to the bottom of the lake and never come up? Fellow Taoist, do you want to jump up yourself, or do you want us to sink you? 6th senior sister, the Soul Death Forest is just ahead. Are we going in? Mu Yen looks at the fog-filled jungle in front of her and frowns deeply. According to Chinda and the others, the Soul Death Forest had always been a forbidden area in the Woodfern secret realm. Basically, only 1 out of 10 cultivators who entered would be able to come out alive. Originally, Mayan brought Leng Yuma and Luo Yu to the Broken Soul Forest, intending to directly enter the forest. But at this moment, looking at the lifeless forest and the thick, black fog in front of him, he felt a chill run down his spine. An extremely bad premonition surged in the depths of his heart. It was as if entering this forest would be more dangerous than facing the joint pursuit of the Heaven Jian sect and the Shui family. Mayan is hesitating whether she should go in or not. Suddenly, Elder Yu's flustered and exasperated roar comes from the sky. June Mayan, you dare to slaughter my Heaven Jian sect's people. As they spoke, the densely packed figures descended from the sky. They surrounded their way of retreat with 3 layers of people inside and outside. At the forefront are the disciples of the Heaven Jian sect, each of them looking at Mu Yan's group with intense hatred and fear. Obviously, on their way here, they had discovered that Elder Qi and the disciples of the Heaven Jian sect led by him have been completely slaughtered. This time, the Heaven Jian sect could be said to have suffered heavy losses in the Woodfern secret realm. Chapter 2263. In a second, 800 mail signs small divided by TalkNet, wonderful pop-up window free reading. The mystical ghoul wood was not found. The scarlet flame gold was taken away again. Not only did they fail to kill 3 people with the entire sect's strength, but they were also killed time and time again. They lost 30% of their men. This time, even Elder Qi, a leaving aperture stage cultivator, died in the Woodfern secret realm. There were only 3 of them. Why did they have to kill them? Elder Yu was so angry that he could not stop trembling. He looked at Mu Yan as if he wanted to tear her into pieces. Mu Yan, let's see where you can run to this time. Then, he waved his hand. Behind him, the few cultivators guarding the perimeter immediately scattered in all directions. A genuine inescapable net spreads out all around Mayan. Apart from the Death Forest, every other direction, including the sky, was enveloped by a huge golden net. The net was covered with barbs that gleamed with a cold light. The barbs were green in color, which was clearly poisonous. Elder Yu looked at her sinisterly and sneered, "Aren't your movement techniques fast? Can't you hide? Aren't you like rats in the gutter that we can't catch? Now, I want to see where else you can hide." Mu Yan's eyes darkened when she looked around. Compared to a few days ago, there were twice as many people surrounding the Wudong tree this time. Other than the people from the Heaven Jian sect and the Shui family, many rogue cultivators joined in for the sake of benefits. As for the leaving Aperture Realm cultivators, there were 3 of them. Moreover, the inescapable net prevented them from using their phantom body technique. It would not be easy for them to break out this time. Mu Yan looked at the death forest behind her. Elder Yu could not help but burst into laughter when he noticed her reaction. "Demoness, there are times when you're afraid too. Are you trying to escape into the death forest? Do you know how miserable and ugly the people who enter the death forest usually die? Miss June, don't do anything stupid." Hao Jixin, who was standing next to Elder Ping, finally shouted. "The people in the death forest have their souls broken. They won't be able to come out alive after entering. Why, you should surrender and hand over the scarlet flame gold, and you might still have a chance to live." His words caused Elder Yu to look at him coldly with a hint of warning in her eyes. Hao Jixin lowered his head in shame and dared not say anything else. Only then did Elder Yu look at Mu Yan, and he said loftily, "I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the scarlet flame gold and all the artifacts and spirit herbs on you, and break your own arms, and I might consider sparing your lowly lives." Mu Yan raised her chin and said slowly, "No, I've decided that I'll bring the scarlet flame gold to my grave in the death forest instead of letting you have it." After that, the 3 of them didn't hesitate at all. They turned around and dove into the death forest. Mu and Spirit 1000, Flame Spirit 1000 Elder Yu and the people from the Heaven Jian sect didn't seem disappointed or angry at their actions. A mocking smile appeared on his face. "Beautiful woman. God Moon of Lady. Saint. How, Star, Demon, how, Saint, how of little," and, the instant Mu Yan trio entered the Soul Death Forest, they felt that something was amiss. However, he was still a step too late. A glaring light spread under their feet. Immediately after, their bodies and even their spiritual power seemed to be firmly locked, unable to move. Chapter 2264. Remember in 1 second, 800 mail sign small/say net, wonderful pop-up window free reading. Ha 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 ha. A sharp laughter comes from behind a rockery on the left. Shui Huai slowly walks out with a strange little mirror in his hand. That face that was beaten into a pig's head has already mostly healed, but the flesh that was cut off by the little puppet has not healed yet. So at this time, his whole face looks like a pockmark, abnormally ugly. June Mayan, you didn't expect this, right? You guys actually fell into my hands. Ha ha ha. I had expected that you guys would definitely not wait to be captured, and would definitely choose to enter the Broken Soul Forest to fight to the death. So from the beginning, I have been waiting for you guys here. Shui Huai's face is full of pride. The mirror in his hand is facing Mayan's direction, and he gently shakes it. The light of the array flashes, and Mayan feels as if her throat is being choked by something, almost unable to breathe. Shui Huai looks at them with eyes full of resentment. This is my Shui family's treasure, the Yada no Kagami. To be able to die in the hands of such a unique artifact, it can be considered an honor for you sluts. Mayan's throat is being choked by an invisible thread, but her expression doesn't change in the slightest. With a lazy expression, she says, "Sorry, who are you? I don't think we've seen this ugly face before, right?" Hee hee, a face like a toad. If I had seen it before, I would definitely not forget it. But why do I feel that that disgusting figure is somewhat familiar? Luo Yu and Leng Yuma immediately giggles and chimes in. Shui Huai's face suddenly distorts, and the Yada no Kagami in his hands suddenly moves. In a split second, it is as if something has tightened the bodies of the three people. The surface of their skin cracks open, and bright red blood oozes out. Even Mu Yan's neck was cut open, and there was a bloody wound. Shui Huai looks at the painful expression on their faces, and the malevolence on his face turns into a carefree and complacent smile. Death is at hand, and you still have that sharp tongue. I have long said that those who offend me, Shui Huai, will not have a good ending. Today, I'll make you three bitches wish you were dead. The corner of Mayan's mouth raises. Oh. So it's the Shui family's young master. Sorry, I just recognized you now. But seeing how happy young Master Shui is, I'm sure you're very satisfied with the new face my Shao Qi has made for you. That's right. A toad should look like a toad. As she spoke, an elixir silently appeared on her finger. Once again, Shui Huai was seething with anger. Bitch, you're courting death. Fine, I'll chop off your limbs and cut off your tongue right now. I'd like to see how a slut like you can still talk back to me. After that, Shui Huai's spiritual power suddenly entered the Yada no Kagami and was about to attack Mu Yan. Chapter 2265. Shui Huai trembles from the pain. Looking up, he sees Cheng Mei, who is biting his ear, smiling crazily at him. Cheng Mei ruthlessly grits her teeth, making a cracking sound. Shui Huai's ear is bitten in half by her, falling to the ground. Cheng Mei says in a low, hoarse voice, "Why? Why won't you give me the fire orchid? Isn't that the child's only life-saving medicine? Ever since I overheard your plan to ambush Mayan in the Broken Souls Forest, I hid here for 3 days and 3 nights. Now, I've finally caught the opportunity. Since you won't let my child live, then I'll perish together with you." Ha ha ha. Saying that, she grabs Shui Huai's hair again and ruthlessly bites down on his nose. Ah 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 ah. Shui Huai screams like a pig being slaughtered. His cultivation is only the same as Cheng Mei's, and Cheng Mei doesn't even care about her own life. His nose is bitten off by Cheng Mei without any resistance. Crazy woman. Crazy woman. Shui Huai mercilessly kicks Cheng Mei's stomach, sending her flying. He screams hysterically, "Kill her! Kill this crazy woman!" Cheng Mei's whole body flies out from the kick, landing in front of Mayan. Without the restraint of the Yada no Kagami, Mayan's movements return to normal. She promptly crouches down and gives Cheng Mei an elixir. However, a large amount of blood gushes out of Cheng Mei's mouth, along with the elixir. Mayan's heart sinks, and she takes out another elixir, but Cheng Mei raises her hand to block it. It's useless. I was seriously injured, and I hid in the Broken Souls forest for 3 days and 3 nights, the evil chi has entered my body, there's no saving it. Mayan's heart is filled with compassion, and she says softly, what last wish do you have? Say it, I'll do my best to fulfill it for you. This time, although they didn't fall into a desperate situation, without Cheng Mei, they would have to pay a great price. That Yada no Kagami alone is not easy to deal with. This time, they owe Cheng Mei a favor. Hearing her words, Cheng Mei smiled lightly. It was as if she had been waiting for these words, waiting for this promise. She had waited for a very long time, and now that she had finally gotten what she wanted, she could finally let go. Miss June, you entered the demonic ape cave. Did you obtain the fire leaf orchid? Mayan nods and raises her hand. A fire orchid appears in her palm. I have a lot on me. If you want, I can give them all to you. Seeing the fire orchid, Cheng Mei's eyes burst with a bright and hopeful light, and she grabs Mayan's wrist. But when she hears Mayan's words, she shakes her head. No, I'm useless. Miss June, I only beg you, use the fire leaves orchid, save my child, save my child's life. Without any hesitation, Mu Yen nodded and said, where are you going to find your child? Cyan Cloud World, Lie. Raging Flames Sect. I hid. Shen, there. Cheng Mei's voice becomes softer and softer, and finally disappears. The hand that is tightly holding Mayan's wrist also slowly drops down. Mayan lightly exhales, and reaches out to close Cheng Mei's eyes. She says softly, don't worry, I will definitely save your child. But, Raging Flames Sect. Why does this name sound somewhat familiar? It seems like I've heard it somewhere before. While she's pondering, Shui Zhong, who heard Shui Huai's scream, rushes in with his men. Chapter 2266. Master, are you all right? In order to kill Mayan, Shui Huai even took out the Yada no Kagami. Shui Zhong didn't agree to it at first. With Shui Huai's cultivation, he couldn't really control the Yada no Kagami. If he didn't use it properly, he might be hurt by the artifact. Unfortunately, the Yada no Kagami was contracted with Shui Huai's divine sense by the ancestor of the Shui family. Others couldn't use it at all. But Shui Huai hated the 3 people of the Xiaoyao school to the extreme. Shui Zhong had no choice but to cooperate with him. Even if he didn't agree, Shui Zhong never doubted it. As long as he used the Yada no Kagami and cooperated with the elites of the Shui family to ambush them at the edge of the Broken Soul Forest, Mayan and the other 2 would definitely die. But he couldn't believe the scene in the Broken Soul Forest. Shui Huai's head and face were covered with blood. He was being carried by Mayan like garbage. The Yada no Kagami was on Lan Luoyu. And the men that Shui Huai brought in to kill the 3 had all become corpses. Shui Zhong was not the only one who was shocked by this scene. Even the people of the Tianjian school couldn't help but shiver. What kind of monsters were these 3 people? Why couldn't they be killed? Not only could they not be killed, but they also made them more and more miserable. Shui Zhong's lips trembled, and it took him a long time to say a complete sentence. Miss June, we can talk about it. As long as you let go of Master and hand over the Yada no Kagami, everything can be discussed. Master is the designated heir of the Shui family. If Miss June killed him, it would be equivalent to going against the entire Shui family. Whether it's you, Miss June, or the sect you're in, you're absolutely unable to bear the consequences. Mayan pulled Shui Huai in front of her and cut a wound on his stomach with the Qijue sword. Shui Huai immediately let out a shrill scream, no longer caring about hatred or pain. He only screamed in horror, don't kill me. I don't want anything, just let me live. Mayan curled her lips, revealing an innocent yet evil smile. Elder Shui, what did you just say? Do you want to say it again? When Shui Zhong saw this scene, his heart almost jumped out of his throat. How ruthless. June Mayan, this woman is really worthy of being called a demoness, worthy of being called the goddess of slaughter. She really doesn't leave any leeway when doing things. However, he could be ruthless, but he could not ignore the eldest young master's life and death. Otherwise, once he exited the mystic realm, he wouldn't be able to live. Taking a deep breath, Shui Zhong lowered his voice and said, Miss June, as long as you agree to release the young master and return the mirror, Shui Zhong can guarantee that you'll be safe and sound in the Woodfern secret realm. The faces of the people from the Heaven Jian sect darkened. But at this moment, Shui Zhong couldn't care less about his young master's life. Mu Yan smiled and said, that damned dog Shui Huai can live, but we'll take the Yada no Kagami mirror. Take it as an apology from the Shui family for chasing us for so many days. No. Shui Zhong shouted. This is impossible. The Yada no Kagami is the treasure of my Shui family. Anyone who dares to covet it will not have a good ending. He gritted his teeth and said, furthermore, this Yada no Kagami is connected to the divine sense of my Shui clan. Even if you obtain it, you won't be able to activate it. Chapter 2267. It's just a piece of trash in your hands, you might as well give it back to us. My Shui family will certainly remember this favor. Mayan slightly narrows her eyes, not saying anything. In her hands, Shui Huai endures the pain on his body, trembling. June Mayan, you should think clearly. Offending my Shui family, you won't be able to survive in the whole Shoujian continent from now on. No need to talk about the future. Even if you kill me in this secret territory, you absolutely won't be able to escape. If you know what's good for you and immediately let this young master go, I can guarantee in the name of the Shui family's successor that you will absolutely not be lacking in benefits. Mayan says with a smile that isn't a smile, how come the Shui family's young master's voice is so weak now? Weren't you shouting about fighting and killing before, wanting me to hand over the qin to save my life? Luo Yu says with a grin, of course the Shui family's young master is a wise man. What's more important than saving his dog life? As for agreeing, once we let him go, it would be like farting, it would be a ghost if we could do it. The expression on Shui Huai's face suddenly stiffens, his face distorting, wanting to curse out loud. But Mayan moves her hand and draws a bloody line on his neck. He immediately trembles in fear and screams, don't kill me. Don't kill me. I swear, I will never lay a hand on you again. Please don't kill me. Yellow liquid flowed down his crotch. Shui Zhong's complexion is extremely unsightly. First, it's because Mayan and the other two don't give the Shui family any face, and second, it's because of Shui Huai's cowardly appearance. He restrains his anger and says in a low voice, Miss June, what do you mean by this? Mayan's gaze falls on him indifferently, unhurriedly saying, two choices, leave the Yada no Kagami, and you and the people of Heaven Jian sect withdraw 100 miles from the Broken Souls forest. After you leave, I will let Shui Huai go. Otherwise, we will leave the lives of the Yada no Kagami and Shui Huai behind. June Mayan, don't go too far. Shui Zhong was infuriated when he heard his conditions. You're just 3 ants from some remote corner of the azure blue world. How dare you negotiate with the southern continent's Shui family and take away our Shui family's treasure, the Yada no Kagami mirror? Who do you think you are? The corner of Mayan's mouth slowly hooks up into a cold arc. It's really a pity that the negotiations broke down. Young Master Shui, farewell forever. Shui Huai's eyes widened abruptly, revealing an expression of disbelief and horror. Shuizhong suddenly opened his mouth and wanted to scream. However, it was too late. The 7 absolute sword in Mu Yan's hand lightly slashed. Shui Huaiyi's head fell from his body and rolled in front of Shuizhong. Even at the moment of his death, he still had an expression of disbelief on his face. He was exactly the same as Shuizhong. You killed the young master. How dare you kill young master? Shuizhong was going crazy. His words just now were just to intimidate Mu Yan and the other 2, he just wanted to bargain again. But what kind of devil is this Jun Mayan? She killed Shui Huaiyi the moment the negotiations broke down. Moreover, she didn't even leave an intact corpse for Shui Huaiyi. Did this woman know who she had killed? What kind of great force did she offend? Even the people of Heaven Jian sect are dumbfounded by Jun Mayan's actions. There's even a trace of rejoicing in their hearts. Chapter 2268. Di Mingju's Betrayal. 1. Compared to the Shui family who directly lost their heir and their artifact, their Heaven Jian sect only lost an elder. They're really lucky. Bah! Lucky my ass. Have they already been abused by this female devil to the point of insanity? Throwing away Shui Huaiyi's corpse, Mayan waves her hand and says, "Enter the Broken Souls Forest." Luo Yu and Leng Yuma don't hesitate and immediately follow. Even if the depths of the Broken Souls Forest are dangerous and terrifying, they don't have the slightest bit of retreat. However, before entering the thick fog, Luo Yu suddenly turns around and shows a lovely smile to Shuizhong, dimples on her cheeks faintly discernible. He tosses the Yada no Kagami in his hand and says unhurriedly, "Apart from the Shui family, no one can activate the Yada no Kagami." As soon as his voice falls, his spiritual power slowly revolves, and a silvery white light faintly appears behind him. In the next moment, there's a light sound. The originally gray and inconspicuous Yada no Kagami actually lights up. A few faint threads shoot out from the surface of the mirror, but because it's his first time using it, he doesn't have proper control, so the threads don't fly far before disappearing without a trace. But in any case, what this represents is already crystal clear. Shuizhong stares unwaveringly, his heart full of fear and doubts life. He mutters under his breath, "No. This is impossible, this is impossible, how is this possible?" Luo Yu sneers, "This is what you meant by, no one can activate it." Hee hee. The 3 figures disappear in the thick fog, but Shuizhong almost falls to the ground on his butt. Everyone looks at each other in dismay, seeing the panic in each other's eyes. Even the people of Heaven Jian sect feel a chill in their hearts, losing the courage to continue the pursuit. Elder Yu, what should we do? Should we go in? Elder Yu's face turns green and white for a moment, then he finally waves his hand fiercely. "All members of Heaven Jian sect, guard the entrance to the Broken Souls Forest, don't let even a fly escape." Hearing this order, everyone in Heaven Jian sect breathes a sigh of relief, bowing and answering, "Yes." Even Elder Yu and Elder Ping heaved a sigh of relief, but it was soon replaced by fear. Since when did the dignified Heaven Jian sect become so afraid of 3 mere thieves from the Azure Blue Realm? So much so that he was so scared that he didn't even dare to chase after him, even though he was outnumbered and had a high cultivation base against a low cultivation base? Mu Yan opens her eyes with difficulty, her head feeling dizzy. Where is she? Why are my memories so vague? His brain felt as though it was filled with lead, and he couldn't think at all. Jun Mayan, so what if you gave birth to a divine fetus? Didn't it still become a medicinal pill for me to advance? Ha ha ha. An unfamiliar yet familiar voice entered her ears, causing her to raise her head abruptly and look forward in disbelief. Gong Qianxue. She saw Gong Qianxue holding a crying baby covered in blood in her hand. The baby was smiling at her malevolently. Little treasure. Mayan's pupils suddenly widen. Seeing that Gong Qianxue was about to throw the baby in her hand into the blazing alchemic fire, her head buzzed, and she was about to throw herself at him. However, at the moment when she was about to pounce, a childish voice vaguely rang in his ears, "Xiaobao loves mother the most." No. This wasn't her Xiaobao. Her Xiaobao was alive and well. Moreover, Gong Qianxue had died a long time ago. This is an illusion. As soon as this thought flashed in her mind, the scene before her eyes immediately flashed. Chapter 2269. The one who appears in front of Mu Yan once again isn't Gong Qianxue and Xiao Bao, but Di Mingju. Moreover, it's Di Mingju who's holding a woman, looking at her with a cold face. The aloof Di Jun looks at her without a trace of emotion in his eyes, only endless killing intent. "Jun Mu Yan, you are a remnant of the Shin musicians, and my polar domain is irreconcilable with you. Do you think that Ben Jun would still like you?" He looks tenderly at the beautiful woman beside him. "Ben Jun has already found a woman who is compatible with me. She is the mistress of the polar domain, and will also give birth to Ben Jun's bloodline, and inherit the polar domain." As Di Mingju's voice falls, the surrounding air fluctuates, and the temperature becomes blazing hot. It's like inciting Mu Yan, constantly trying to ignite her anger, pain, and despair. Mu Yan takes a deep breath, and with a wave of her hand, the Tian Mo Qin appears in her hand. The corner of her mouth hooks up into a cold curve, and her voice is pleasant to listen to, but there's a sinister chill in it. Even though I know that this is all fake, it still makes me very unhappy. As soon as her voice falls, the sound of the zither creases. The next moment, that originally real scene is like a reflection in the water being smashed into a boulder. It suddenly sets off a huge wave, and all the reality shatters into illusion in a split second. Mu Yan's hands don't stop moving, and the sound of the zither becomes more and more urgent, faster and faster. From time to time, there's a crackling sound coming from all around. Pieces of the demonic plant's limbs scatter and fall. It's accompanied by the wailing of some kind of beast. Until all these sounds disappear, and the fog in front of her slowly fades, Mu Yan can clearly see the situation in front of her. This is the forest of broken souls. The fog is thick, and the danger is like a pile of eggs. And in front of her, there's a strange demonic plant. This demonic plant has a huge mouth full of barbs, and it's slowly opening and closing. But now, this bloody mouth has already been riddled with holes by Mu Yan's zither, and it's too horrible to look at. Mu Yan has a lingering fear when she remembers everything that just happened. The three of them have only been inside for a quarter of an hour, when they suddenly feel dizzy, and their minds are out of sorts. By the time Mu Yan realizes that there's a problem, she's already been dragged into the illusion. If she hadn't woken up in time, and rushed to attack Gong Qianxue or Fatty Di Mingju at this moment, he had already stepped into the giant mouth of the demonic plant and was most likely being devoured until not even his bones were left. Mayan lets out a long sigh of relief, then her complexion suddenly changes. Oh no! Where are fourth senior sister and Xiaoqi? She has the Tian Mo Qin and the mist dispersing skill, so she can quickly get rid of the illusion and the heart's devil. But what about fourth sister and little seven? Would they be able to escape from the illusion? Mu Yan looked around, only to find that the surrounding fog had gathered once again, and it was impossible to see anything within 5 meters. It was impossible for her to find Len Yuma and Luo Yu. Mayan's eyes sink. She suddenly sits cross-legged on the ground, her fingers lightly moving. The sound of the zither instantly spread out, enveloping a radius of several hundred meters. Cloud-dispersing mist could dispel inner demons, and naturally, it could also dispel illusions. He hoped that his music could help fourth senior sister and little seven out of danger. Not long after, there was a sound coming from the left. Sixth senior sister. Luo Yu excitedly rushes over and hugs her arm. Sure enough, it's you playing the zither, that's great. I was really scared to death just now. I suddenly appeared in a palace full of corpses, and I couldn't get out no matter how I walked. I thought that I would be trapped there forever. Fortunately, 6th senior sister's music rang out, and I was able to escape smoothly. Baidu search the UC Book League website, and let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all of which are updated in seconds. There's a temple in Death Forest. Mu Yan thought about it and said decisively, "Come on, let's go take a look." The three of them followed the light and quietly flew over. When he got closer, he realized that it was indeed a dilapidated temple. But how could there be a temple in the Death Forest? Suddenly, a few voices came from inside. "Run! Why don't you keep running? I chased you all the way here and even chased you into this perilous forest of death. Do you still think you can survive? Boss, this time, we must properly torture this brat. It's all because of him that we were trapped in the Death Forest. We didn't even get to play to our heart's content. This time in the Woodfern secret territory, I haven't properly tortured many people yet. TSK, TSK, TSK. Looking at young Master Qin up close, isn't he also a soft and tender little gigolo? Baidu search, UC Book League website and let you experience the latest and fastest chapters, all updated in seconds. Chapter 2271. Boss, I don't mind men and women. Why don't you let me have a good taste of him before you peel his skin? The voices coming from inside are rough and hoarse, with a hint of cruelty and evil. Moreover, this voice seems somewhat familiar. Mu Yan's feet lightly touch the ground, and her whole body, like a feather, lightly lands on the beam. Soon, the scene in the temple comes into view. It's no wonder that she found the voice familiar. It turns out that the people who are speaking are the Bloody Hands jackals, who once treated them as prey before entering the secret territory. When Mu Yan was at the periphery of the secret territory, she cleaned up a wave of Bloody Hands jackals, who had their eyes on Li Xiuxiu. But she never met the group who didn't have eyes to provoke them. Unexpectedly, these jackals are actually trapped in the soul-breaking forest. As for the person surrounded by these Bloody Hands jackals, it's naturally Qinqingye, who wanted to help them. Qinqingye has a lot of wounds on his body, his face is pale, and he looks panic-stricken. Hearing the words of these people, his complexion greatly changes. Without thinking, he raises the sword in his hand to commit suicide. Unfortunately, each of these Bloody Hands jackals have extremely high cultivation and rich experience. So, without waiting for him to move, a stone in his hand shoots out, knocking his long sword to the ground. Boy, I advise you to be obedient and let me have a good time. Maybe when I peel your skin later, my hands will be faster, and I guarantee that I'll peel off a whole skin for you. Qinqingye turns to run, but the other jackals are already waiting there. They immediately swarm over him, holding his hands and feet, pressing him to the ground. Bastards, you bunch of bastards, let me go. I must kill you. A man with a face full of lumps loosens his belt, licks his lips, and makes an excited voice, "Scream, scream, the louder you scream, the more excited I am." Just as this jackal is about to raise his spear and go into battle, a silver light suddenly flashes before his eyes. In a split second, an indescribable pain comes from his family jewels. Ah 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 ah. For a man, a small wound in that place is unbearable pain. What's more, this person's lower body is a bloody mess. He immediately falls to the ground, curling up like a shrimp. Apart from wailing and twitching, he can't make any other sound. Who's there? Anyone who dares to hurt us, the Blood Hand jackals, must be tired of living. The temple's already dilapidated door suddenly shattered into pieces. Mu Yan, Leng Yuma and Luo Yu appeared at the door. Mu Yan holds the 7 absolute sword in her hand and says with an expressionless face, "Just in time, I'm also very impatient to enter this damned place." Then let's end this quickly. Everyone in the temple was stunned when they saw the three of them. Qinqingye, in particular, looked at them in surprise. After a long while, she murmured, It's you. You. Why did you enter Death Forest? No matter how you look at it, Mu Yan's trio's cultivation is only at the first level of nascent soul. Even if a low-level cultivator like that managed to survive in the Woodfern's secret realm, they would only stay in the outer regions. But now, not only did the three of them enter the core area, they even entered the most dangerous place in the entire mystery territory, the Forest of Broken Souls. The Bloodhand Jackals obviously recognized them as well. The expression of the burly man in the lead slowly changes from anger to greed and excitement. His eyes are fixed on Mu Yan, and he says faintly, Little beauty, I've been looking for you since we entered the mystery territory. I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to me. Chapter 2272. Tisk, TSK, looking at your skin of ice and bones of jade, when I was outside the secret territory, I was thinking, aren't you a little slut waiting for me to teach you a lesson? His words made the surrounding blood-handed jackals burst into laughter. Although they were caught off guard by Mayan's move just now. But in the cultivation world, what really matters is strength. 3 first-level nascent soul, if they want to crush them to death or play with them, isn't that as easy as turning over their hands? The corners of Mayan's mouth also gently hooks up. It's like the flowing wind and returning snow, unparalleled in beauty. The eyes of the bloody hands jackals on the other side go straight. However, the next moment, they hear a woman's clear and sweet, but cold and stern voice, Fourth sister, Shao-Chi, kill them. As soon as the voice falls, the spiritual power in the temple surges like a stormy sea. Murderous intent. At first, Qinqingye's face is still full of worry, but after a quarter of an hour, there's only disbelief and shock. The bluestone floor of the temple is completely soaked in blood. The broken limbs of the bloody hands jackals are scattered everywhere. They all die very quickly. But it's definitely not an easy death. Every corpse is riddled with holes, until the flesh and blood of the body have been eaten clean, only then did they swallow their last breath in the hellish torture. Mayan's footsteps on the face of the bloody hands jackal boss, looking down at him with a smile. Who did you say you wanted to teach a lesson? Woo woo, woo 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 woo. The eyes of the bloody hands jackal boss, who has always thought of himself as fierce and cruel, are left with only fear and despair. Mayan's eyes turn, looking at the thick fog outside the window, she suddenly remembers something, and kicks the meatball on the ground. She kicks into the thick fog. Almost at the same time as the meatball flies out, a huge mouth with barbs sprang out from the thick fog. With a crunch, it swallows the bloody hands jackal boss. The huge mouth quickly shrinks, and the sound of chewing that makes people's teeth ache can be heard from the thick fog. Luo Yu and Len Yuma do the same, kicking out the other bloody hands jackals and feeding them to the demonic plant. Mayan can feel the gratitude and happiness of the demonic plant coming from the thick fog. She smiled and turned to look at Qinqingye. Young Master Qin, why are you here? To be honest, Qinqingye's cultivation was not too high. It was already difficult for them to enter the core region, let alone this dangerous soul death forest. Qinqingye bowed gratefully to the three and said in a hoarse voice, Thank you for saving my life. Then, a bitter smile appeared on his face. Back then, I thought I was the one who saved you. I didn't think that thanks to you, I don't know your names. If there's a chance in the future, I will definitely go through water and tread on fire to repay you. Mayan smiles, it's nothing, young Master Qin doesn't need to take it to heart. What's more, scum like him is dead. What's there to be grateful for? Yes, big brother Qin, are you okay? I see that you have quite a few injuries on your body. Qinqingye waved her hands to indicate that she was fine. I came to the Woodfern secret realm to look for a spirit herb in the core region, but I didn't expect to be targeted by the Bloodhand jackals. Halfway through his words, he suddenly widened his eyes and looked in Mayan's direction with a frightened expression. Be careful. At the same time, Luo Yu and Len Yuma's expressions changed as well. They turned into phantoms and pounced towards Mayan. They saw that under Mayan's feet, the bluestone ground suddenly split open without any warning. Chapter 2273. Mu Yan was completely caught off guard, and her whole body fell straight down. Luo Yu and Len Yuma rushed in front of her, but they only had time to grab a corner of her clothes. Little junior sister. Sixth senior sister. Mu Yan didn't expect that the ground below would suddenly split open without any warning, without any spiritual power fluctuations. Furthermore, there seemed to be a terrifying suction force pulling her down from the ground. She couldn't use the spiritual power in her body for a while, and she couldn't fly. This kind of fall lasted for more than 10 breaths of time. She could vaguely see the ground. And with her current falling speed, if there was no buffer, she would definitely fall into a meat patty. Mu Yan took out a spirit traversing talisman and stuck it on her body, then she operated her internal force. Soon, her falling speed slowed down, and she finally landed steadily on the ground. However, as soon as her feet touched the ground, a soft and sticky feeling came from the soles of her feet. The tip of her nose was filled with a nauseating stench. The surroundings were quiet, without the slightest sound or light. Mu Yan took out a few illuminating crystals and threw them in all directions. The scene in front of her made her suck in a breath of cold air. Even with Mu Yan's experience of hardships and perseverance, she couldn't help but feel her scalp go numb and a chill run down her spine. Corpses. It was a dense pile of corpses that seemed to have no end. There were cultivators, and there were also vicious beasts. The most frightening thing was that each of these corpses was as thin as a match, and their skin was scorched black and withered. All of them, be it humans or beasts, seemed to have one foot in the grave, dying of old age. Moreover, the expressions on their faces were fixed in incomparable fear and pain. One could imagine what kind of torture these people had suffered before they died. But how could there be so many corpses here? And what was this place? Suddenly, Mu Yan's eyes narrowed. She saw, withered, male cultivator, or rather, that male cultivator's clothes and the magic weapon in his hand. Her eyelids twitched. If she remembered correctly, this person was one of the male cultivators who followed Su Lui. When the shocking incident happened in the periphery of the Woodfern secret realm, this male cultivator carelessly fell into the quagmire and died. But why would his corpse appear here? A thought slowly formed in his mind. This was the place where that deranged person had set up a formation to sacrifice all the living beings in the outer perimeter of the mystic realm. Mayan composes herself, suppresses the fluctuations in her mood, and avoids the piles of corpses. This should be an abandoned underground palace. There were murals engraved on the walls, but most of them were covered in layers of bloodstains, making it impossible to see them clearly. However, after circling around, she could not find the exit at all. Originally, he wanted to break the wall and leave, but the wall was covered with a layer of soft and tough material, just like the ground. Even if the 7 absolute swords were to strike it, they would be bounced back, unable to harm it at all. What makes Mu Yan most uneasy is that she has once again lost contact with Qi Huang. She could access the things in the space, but she couldn't use her divine sense to explore the space, let alone enter the space. Mu Yan frowns and pushes aside the corpses blocking the way. She is about to go in another direction to investigate. However, when the corpse was pushed aside, she discovered that there were a few talismans on the ground. Just as Mu Yan was about to bend down to pick it up, a creepy feeling suddenly rose in her heart. Chapter 2274. She only has time to pick up a talisman and stuff it into the space. She doesn't care about the dirt on the ground, and immediately rolls away. Patter. The moment she rolls away, something falls on the place where she just stood. Zizizi. There's a burning sound that makes people's teeth ache. As soon as Mayan turns around, she comes face to face with a pair of green eyes. Then, the whole monster's image enters her eyes. Even with Mayan's calmness, she has goosebumps all over her body at this time. What the hell is this thing? It's a sticky black lump. It looks like a thick swamp has gathered together. With a casual movement, a dirty lump will fall down with a patter. But it has a pair of green eyes. That pair of eyes look at Mayan without a trace of emotion, making her hair stand on end for no reason at all. Patter. Another lump of mud falls, falling on the few talismans that Mayan didn't have time to pick up. Immediately, these talismans make a buzzing sound and disappear without a trace. There's a satisfied look in those small green eyes, and then it greedily looks at Mayan. Puff. A lump of mud flies towards Mayan. Mayan is on full alert, and her reaction isn't slow. The 7 absolute swords in her hands instantly slash at the lump of mud. However, the moment the 7 absolute swords touch the mud, she inwardly says, "Not good." When fighting, Mayan's spiritual power is usually attached to the 7 absolute swords, so that its attack power can be multiplied. But at this time, when attacking the mud shot out by the monster, she clearly feels that her spiritual power attached to the 7 absolute swords is swallowed clean in an instant. Moreover, one of the drops of mud splashes on her hand. ZZ. A freezing and burning pain comes, and Mayan can't help but let out a muffled groan. She looks down and is shocked to find that there's a fingernail-sized black spot on the back of her white hand. There's no rupture here, and no blood oozes out. But it looks like it's completely burnt, and the skin is as dry as an old woman's. And the monster on the other side, after swallowing her spiritual power, seems to have eaten something delicious. Her whole body trembles with excitement. Even the disgusting mud splattered everywhere. Wherever it went, as long as there was a trace of fresh flesh, there would be a sizzling sound that made one's teeth ache. Mu Yan's heart sinks. This monster could devour spiritual power in an instant, and it could even cause the flesh and blood of living beings to appear to be burnt. In this way, regardless of whether it was a long-range or close-range attack, she was in an extremely disadvantageous position. Perhaps it was because he had used up the scarlet flame gold and mysterious ghost wood that he had obtained so easily. God seemed to think that she was not unlucky enough. Patter. 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 There were 3 consecutive sounds. 3 groups of monsters that looked exactly the same appeared again. Those pairs of lush green eyes are filled with greed and longing as they stare at Mayan. He was moving slowly towards her. For a moment, there was no way forward, and he had to retreat 5 doors. This was the first time Mu Yan had fallen into such dire straits since entering the Woodfern secret realm. However, the corners of her mouth slowly curled up into a cold smile. It can devour spiritual power. Then let's see if you can devour Xian Qi. As soon as her voice falls, the 7 absolute sword in her hand instantly turns into the Tian Mo Qin. She doesn't care about the filth and nausea on the ground, and slowly sits down. With a drop of her finger, the sound of metal shaking the mountains and rivers is heard. Boom! There seems to be an invisible airflow spreading out with her as the center. Chapter 2275. Together with the 10,000 blades, she rushes straight towards the 4 monsters. The 4 monsters don't dodge or evade, seemingly certain that the attack can't hurt them. Indeed, although the mud can't absorb internal force, it can't really hurt them either. The blades penetrate the mud, but their bodies will heal immediately. And the 4 monsters are getting closer and closer to her. Mu Yan's face doesn't show the slightest bit of panic. If the blade doesn't work, she will switch to a spell attack. Internal force has no attribute, so she can't launch the 5 elements spell. But Mu Yan finds that she can wrap her internal force outside of spiritual power. In this way, even if an attack with spiritual power falls on the monsters, they absolutely can't absorb it for a while. Wood, ice, fire. Mu Yan uses her 3 existing spiritual roots to try them out one by one. Finally, when a fireball wrapped in chi smashed into one of the monsters, it was like a fireball. The mud actually makes a sizzling sound. Poof! One of the small clumps of mud directly bursts open. The monster is so scared that it retreats several steps. But the fire is ignited by spiritual power, so when the wrapped internal force dissipates, the spiritual power is quickly swallowed by the monster, and the fire is naturally extinguished. Looking at this scene, Mu Yan doesn't feel the slightest bit depressed. Instead, she smiles. So ordinary fire is your weakness. This is interesting, don't worry, I will give you a big gift right away. A quarter of an hour later. Boom! 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 The entire hall shakes violently. Countless corpses tumbled down from the pile of hills, scattering into wreckage. Even the surrounding walls and the sticky film on the ground have been blasted open several holes. Mu Yan watches the last monster, trembling in pain, slowly being swallowed up by the flames and disappearing. Only then does she breathe a sigh of relief. This time, it's really a blessing from the heavens, escaping from death. If it weren't for the fact that her fighting capital is not only spiritual power, but also internal force. If it weren't for the thunderbolt that the immortal battalion of the Nether Flame Army specially made for her. Today, it might not be these monsters that will be destroyed, but her, Jun Mu Yan. In fact, there are many craftsmen in the immortal battalion who are good at this kind of strange skill. It's just that in the Xiuzhen continent where the weak are prey to the strong, it was gradually abandoned. But this time, it seems that this kind of strange skill, at a critical moment, may be a magic weapon to win by a surprise move. When she goes back, she must have Feng Haitang excavate and develop it. Miss June. A pleasantly surprised voice comes, interrupting Mayan's train of thought. One of the doors that was originally covered by the membrane had just been blasted open by the thunderbolt flaming thunder. At this moment, Qin Qingye was stumbling into the passageway, shouting in surprise, "Miss June, you're all right, that's great." However, Mu Yan's face changed. "Why are you here? Where are my 4th senior sister and youngest junior brother?" Qin Qingye revealed a panicked expression and shook her head. I don't know either. After you fell down, many cracks suddenly appeared on the ground, and the 3 of us fell down with you. When I woke up, I was in a room full of dead bodies. Those corpses were too terrifying. I couldn't escape even if I wanted to. It wasn't until there was a violent explosion just now that one of the doors of the room I was in was broken. Only then did I walk out. As he spoke, he revealed a look of worship. I didn't expect it to be you, Miss June. Every part of the house was covered with a thin film, no matter how I slashed or attacked it, it was useless. Miss June, you're so powerful, to actually be able to break this thin film. Chapter 2276. Mayan frowned and didn't speak. She was very worried about the safety of Len Yuma and Luo Yu. Qin Qingye glanced at the densely packed corpses in the hall, his face pale with fright. How could there be so many corpses? Where is this place? Miss June, what happened just now? Mayan took a deep breath, calmed herself down, and told her about the monster that had just appeared and her battle with it. She even told her about the origin of the corpses. Qin Qingye's eyes widened in horror, and he couldn't recover for a long time. However, he suddenly frowned and said softly, "I think I've seen this monster and mud somewhere before." "Oh." Qinchinye pondered for a while, then suddenly slapped his thigh and exclaimed, I remember now, this is the Northern Nether Black Fiend formation. It feeds the otherworldly item, Rotten Dragon, by sacrificing countless lives. The Rotten Dragon can devour spiritual power and carbonize flesh and blood. Every day, it can spit out a substance called dragon membrane that can reflect spiritual power and isolate all divine sense probes. Most importantly, when the Rotten Dragon grows to a certain extent, it can destroy all formations and barriers in the world. It's not even afraid of any attack. But to raise it to this extent, the sacrifice is absolutely immeasurable. Qinchinye's face was a little pale as he said this. Miss June, the mud-like monster that you just dealt with should be the Rotten Dragon. But it should be a clone of the Rotten Dragon, so it's afraid of fire. I'm afraid ordinary fire can't hurt the real body of the Rotten Dragon. Mayan was surprised. How do you know so much? Qinchinye scratched his head, looking embarrassed. After I entered the Woodfern secret territory, I was constantly being chased by the blood-handed jackals. Almost at the beginning, I accidentally ran into the Soul Break Forest. Luckily, I had a lot of magic treasures that could break illusions, so I could survive until now. Also, while hiding, I entered many ruins in the Soul Break Forest. The information about the Rotten Dragon and the Northern Nether Black Fiend formation came from those ruins. Mayan nodded. Did it say how to kill the Rotten Dragon and break the Northern Nether Black Fiend formation? How can we leave this place? Qinchinye hurriedly nodded, but then revealed a troubled expression. There is a way, but it's too difficult. And it's very dangerous. The only way to break the Northern Nether Black Fiend Grand Formation is to kill the Rotten Dragon itself. However, the murderous aura of the Rotten Dragon's body was constantly supplied by the Northern Nether Black Fiend Grand Formation. If the baleful aura supply isn't cut off, the Rotten Horn Dragon will be reborn again and again. It's impossible to kill them all. Mayan frowns and says nothing. Chapter 2277. Gulp. Qinchinye swallowed and shook his head repeatedly. It's nothing, it's nothing. His eyes were shining, full of worship. Miss June, if it were you, you would definitely be able to destroy the Death Gate and let us escape from this damned place. Following Qinchinye's compass, the two passed through one room or hall after another, heading in the southwest direction. What made the two's hair stand on end was that every room and hall was covered with dried corpses. Human, beast, and even magical plants, all added up to at least a few qian's worth of corpses. Along the way, the two were very careful not to use spiritual power. So only one Rotten Dragon's clone was alarmed, but it was quickly taken care of by Mu Yen with thunderous fire. Suddenly, Qinchinye pointed to a membrane in front of them and said excitedly, Miss June, it's there. My compass sensed a strong evil aura from the Death Gate. Mu Yen didn't hesitate and directly blew up the last layer of horned membrane. But the scene that appeared in front of them this time was completely different from the previous rooms. There were no more corpses inside. But the scene inside made people's scalps prickle even more than looking at the corpses all over the ground. In the middle of the hall was a huge meatball. The meatball had countless holes like eyes, emitting a faint green light. From the top of the meatball, there were countless filaments, intertwining around the entire room, penetrating every wall. Being in it was like being in a spider's cave. But when Mu Yen saw this scene, she only felt disgusted for a moment, and then her attention was attracted by everything under the meatball. If the meatball and everything around it was disgusting and nauseating, everything under the meatball was incompatible with all of this. There was a transparent glass cover there. The glass cover was extremely huge, at least 3 meters high and 10 square meters wide. It was almost the size of a small room. But there was nothing inside this glass cover. There was only a very small one, occupying only 1% of the glass cover, an egg. That's right. It was an egg, and no matter how you looked at it, it was a very ordinary egg with a yellow skin. Mu Yan turned to look at Qin Qingye, pointed to the egg and the meatball, and asked, "What is that?" Qin Qingye was also confused. He recognized the meatball. That should be the death gate of the Northern Nether Black Fiend Formation. Miss June, there's something you don't know. The Northern Nether Black Fiend Formation only opens the Death Gate, the Fright Gate, and the Wound Gate. Each gate is suppressed by an otherworldly item. As for that egg? Confused, he said, "I don't know what that is either." Mu Yan, forget it, let's not worry about that egg for now. Tell me, how can we destroy the Death Gate and cut off the supply of evil energy to the rotten dragon's main body? Explode this meatball? Qin Qingye shook her head. Absolutely not. Unless all three gates were destroyed at the same time, all of the rotten dragons, including the main body, would pounce on them as soon as the meatball died. At that time, we will definitely die. After a pause, he pointed at a spot not far from the glass cover. Do you see that? Below that cave is the formation eye of the Death Gate of the Northern Nether Black Fiend Formation. As long as the formation eye is destroyed, the supply of evil energy will be cut off. But in a short time, the rotten dragon won't notice it. As he spoke, he showed an annoyed and ashamed expression. The Death Gate is surrounded by evil energy. My cultivation is too weak. I'm afraid I will faint if I go down. But no matter what, Miss June, you can't take the risk. Let me go and explore first. Chapter 2278. Mayan smiles, "No need, I'll go." Saying that, without waiting for Qin Qingye to speak, she slowly walks towards the direction of the cave. Soon, she arrives in front of the cave and looks down. She sees that the cave isn't big, but it's so deep that the bottom can't be seen. Almost at the same time, behind her, Qin Qingye's footsteps are silent as he slowly walks over. When he's about 10 feet away from her, his eyes reveal a malevolent look. He suddenly reaches out and ruthlessly pushes her back. However, to Qin Qingye's shock, his hand actually goes straight through Mayan's body. Qin Qingye's complexion changes, realizing that it's not good. But there's still a strong force behind him, kicking his whole body into the cave. Mayan coldly watches Qin Qingye fall into the cave. She slowly takes a few steps back, leaning against the glass cover. The next moment, a low laughter comes from below the cave. From the beginning, it's muffled and oppressive, to a crazy laughter later on. Truly worthy of being the Shin musician's successor. I've been so careful, but you still saw through my flaws. Mayan's pupils suddenly contract, her heart almost leaping out of her throat. At this time, Qin Qingye's figure slowly floats up from above the cave. However, the man in front of her, compared to his previous timid and bashful self, has a bit more arrogance and arrogance. His entire temperament seems to have undergone an earth-shattering change. He soars into the air, looking down at Mayan from above, chuckling, "June Mayan, I'm really curious. I thought that I had already disguised myself very well, and the information I told you was almost all true. It's reasonable to say that there shouldn't be a single flaw. How did you find out that something was wrong?" Mayan indifferently says, "The highest realm of lying is 9 truths and 1 falsehood. Qinggongzi is really well versed in this. If I hadn't suspected you from the moment we met in this underground palace, maybe I would have really been deceived by you." "Oh. You suspected me from the beginning?" Qin Qingye's face is full of curiosity. "What's my flaw?" Mayan raises her hand, and a talisman appears between her fingers. "I don't know if Qinggongzi still remembers the talismans I gave you back then. All the talismans that I have drawn have my own unique mark on them. It is impossible for me to be mistaken. When young Master Qin reunited with me in the underground palace, you said that this was your first time falling into this place as well and that you didn't know what this place was." "Ha!" She smiled lightly. If young Master Qin has never been to this underground palace, then why would the talisman I gave you appear here? Qin Qingye's expression changed, and then he laughed out loud. Good, good, good. You really are worthy of being the successor of the Shin musicians. You have a meticulous mind and remain calm in the face of danger. It seems I have underestimated you. Mu Yan slightly narrowed her eyes and said in a deep voice, "What are you talking about? I don't understand." Hee, stop pretending. As early as when you transformed the sword in your hand into a zither and attacked the rotten dragon, I had already guessed your identity. A bright light bursts out of Qin Qingye's eyes. Although I have not personally seen the glorious era of the Shin musicians, there are many top-secret classics related to the Shin musicians in my sect. I would never mistake you. I really didn't expect that after paying such a great price to come to the Xiuzhen continent, not only would I obtain the treasure that I have yearned for even in my dreams, but I would also find the successor of the Shin musicians. Ha 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 ha, the heavens are really helping me. Chapter 2279. Mayan's heart sinks a little. She doesn't need to ask to know that this person must be from the Xiuzhen continent. Only some people in the Xiuzhen continent would be so clear about the Shin musician successor. As for the Xiuzhen continent, at most, there are only a few legends left. Wanting to discover her identity as a descendant of the Shin musicians from her fight is simply a fantasy. Qin Qingye looks at her unsightly face with satisfaction, his expression relaxed and leisurely. Jun Mayan, I advise you not to try to resist. Perhaps in the eyes of these wastes in the Xiuzhen continent, you're very powerful, but in my eyes, you're nothing more than an ant. If I didn't want the Shin musician inheritance in your head, if I didn't want to leak my breath to the people above me, I could easily crush you with just one finger. Mayan coldly looks at him, not saying anything. Qin Qingye slowly descends and grabs her chin, revealing a stunned expression. It would be a pity to kill such a beautiful face. Why don't you follow me? As long as you obediently hand over all the Shin musician inheritance, I will take you back to the Xiuzhen continent. That place is a cultivator's paradise, many people want to go but can't. As long as you're obedient and serve me well, I can promise to take you up. Before his voice falls, Qin Qingye suddenly takes a few steps back. After standing still, he touches his cheek with a calm face. A piece of his left cheek had actually been sliced off. Qin Qingye's face suddenly sinks. Jun Mayan, are you refusing a toast and now you want to drink a forfeit? Mayan sneers and shakes her head. I'm really sorry, I can't accept a toast or a forfeit in front of your disgusting face. Qin Qingye's eyes burst with a strong murderous intent. Little girl, you won't shed tears until you see the coffin, right? Good, then I'll wait for you to kneel on the ground and beg me. As soon as his voice falls, he raises his hand. Suddenly, the meatball above shakes violently, and the threads also vibrate violently. Soon after, Mu Yan hears a familiar pitter-patter. What follows is a nauseating rancid smell. A rotten dragon, 10 times bigger than the one from before, appears in front of Mayan. Mu Yan's pupils shrink, and she says in a deep voice, the rotten dragon's main body. Qin Qingye sat on top of the meatball, watching the show as she leisurely said, like I said, most of what I told you is true. Your thunderbolt fire might be able to deal with the rotten dragon's doppelganger, but if you want to deal with the rotten dragon's main body, it's just a joke. There's one more thing. Qin Qingye gently knocked on the meatball under her. I've also said that the so-called Death Gate is actually an otherworldly item. Once this otherworldly item fuses with the rotten dragon, its last weakness will disappear. The moment Qin Qingye struck, countless threads suddenly shot out from the meatball towards the rotten dragon. Soon, the rotten dragon, which was originally just a soft lump of mud, began to slowly change its shape, growing a body and 4 limbs. Its body was still covered in mud that could carbonize flesh and devour spiritual energy. On its head is a pair of greedy mung bean eyes, staring at Mu Yan, as if staring at the most delicious food. Qin Qingye said coldly, I gave you a chance. If you were willing to submit just now, I would have given you a chance to live. Unfortunately, you gave it up yourself. Now, you can only become the rotten dragon's fodder. As long as it swallows you, the barrier will soon be corroded, and I can get what I want, ha 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 ha. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.